Now for the real deal, New England feel.
I went up the rail. I might go down and be ashamed of myself.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe's with us in the booth. You are watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, anywhere you podcast. And, of course, 790 The Score. And listen, while you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Give us that like, that thumbs up. That's really what we care about. We appreciate that. And all the watchers and listeners. And make sure you're commenting and checking out our shorts and short reels. Those are pretty popular. And if you want to talk with us, you could do it in Heated Hotline. Leave a message 24/7, 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S. Have a take. Joe may pick yours. Let's hope it is yours. Or you can email us on our mailbag. What do you think, Mike? Think he'll pick think he will pick yours? I don't think
I don't know what he does. He just
Yeah.
Should I tell? I look for the craziest stuff that's going to get you guys riled up and, funny stuff. I love that.
Right?
Well, they can also email us in our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. Got a good one. We're still talking. What is this, Joe? Celtics Post-Mortem.
Yeah.
Oh,
Last week when we came on, they hadn't played.
you had a feeling, didn't you?
But
Like, kind of had a feeling, right?
And so now we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Game 6 and everything they have moving forward. We're actually going to talk a little Bruins talk tonight, too. Okay. And, of course, Catone's comments. Let's see what he comes with tonight. And Yankees versus Red Sox. God damn, the Red Sox are a mess. So we'll talk a lot about that. And what? The Yankees are a mash unit. So,
but they're 10 games over 500, Chris.
It's just amazing. Right. So we'll get into all that. And Yankees versus Red Sox. Hi, guys.
What's going on?
What's going on? Everything's going on. Corso and Catone is what's going on right now.
Getting closer, Chris. We got OTAs going on at least, right?
We do have OTAs. We're not going to talk about it in this show, unless you got something in your bag of tricks over there for Catone's comments. But we are going to talk about it. That's right. We are going to talk about it on the Pats Nation tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you're tuning in for that. But
I can't wait, Chris, for the season to stop, because then I can have my Bloody Marys, tailgate in the morning. Whether I'm going to the game or not, it's a football day. You know what I mean?
Well, looking at Drake May on Tuesday or whatever it was, the first day, we may have to have some drinks before every game. So we'll see about that tomorrow. But today, we need to talk Celtics Post-Mortem. We're going to do it in B's and C's. We're going to do it now.
Hit it! The Boston Celtics are the world champions, and they have shown the world how great a ball club they really are. Screen shot,
Okay, guys, before we get to the Celtics, let's just talk Bruins for a second, okay? Sure. And I know we have some sound here from Cam Neely, but the big news of the week from them was that they extended Don Sweeney to give him a 2-year extension. So I guess at the end of this year, he'll get 2 more. So he basically has 3 more years left on his contract. And so I want to
know who he's got pictures of. He's got to have pictures of somebody. What? Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah. It's a head scratcher in this sense. Because of all the picks they have. So they made these trades, they've acquired 2nd-round picks, 1st-round picks, and now Marchand has become a 1st-round pick.
And Chris,
because of how far Florida
did what you and I were hoping they did. They made some deals, they gathered picks. The Marchand deal turns into a 1st-round pick. But you have some issues.
2015 draft was like a horror show. I mean, and this is why we feel like this guy shouldn't be anywhere near a draft, that being Don Sweeney. I mean, right?
Yeah.
So what do we do with those picks? But there is someone who is defending him, of course, and it's his teammate, his former teammate, line mate, however you want to say it, and that's Cam Neely. Do we have that, Joe?
and developing, the narrative there is a little off, and it's been going on for quite some time. Goes back to 15, and 15, it was really unfair to Don. By the time Don got hired, it was late May. Draft was late June. He wasn't even probably thinking about being a general manager of the Boston Bruins at the time. What Don did leading up to the draft to make the acquisitions that he did with those picks, to get the 3 picks, I thought was really good. I think we've got a number of players, not necessarily playing with the Boston Bruins, but a number of players that we have drafted that have played NHL hockey games.
Yeah, so of course
not necessarily playing for the Boston Bruins. What the hell kind of a statement is that?
Exactly. All the picks that he made before, I think one of them's still going, and not even for Boston.
Yeah, but and Chris, he brings up 2015. But it hasn't just been 2015, Chris. It's been a same draft after draft after draft. I mean, Neely even makes reference to the fact that, we got a lot of guys, playing from those drafts, not necessarily for the Boston Bruins. Well, then what the hell's the point of the draft if they're not playing for the Boston Bruins?
Right, exactly. And this also had to be. I mean, he's good with vets. He's good with veterans, getting guys in. All that. That's fine. But not when you're gonna now have to rebuild the team now. This probably was done though because they're looking for a coach. A coach is going to come in with a lame duck GM.
True. That is true. That's
so. We got some names on
Marco
Stern.
But with this roster, Chris, who wants to come here anyway?
Well, they got a few names. I mean, Sackos hasn't been ruled out. Marco Stern, who I think would be a good fit for a young team. He did great in the NHL, and he had coaching young guys. So that to me should be the leader in the clubhouse as far as I'm concerned. So we'll see what happens, but we needed to get to that to talk a little bit about that, the other debacle there in the Garden. But let's get to the post-mortem, Mark. And before we get to Celtics, let's just update where we are after game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final.
Well, the Knicks blew us. Did you watch? Listen, I was on the phone with you.
Yeah.
We're watching the Yankees, I told you, the freaking Knicks are up 14, whatever I said they were. And I watched Dominguez hit the walk-off. And then I flipped to something else. And then I go back.
It's tied up.
The game's in overtime.
Right. Yeah. And so Indy came back and won the game. What was it? 138,
they were down
135.
17 in the fourth quarter, Chris.
They were down 17, and then they were down 9 with 2 minutes. It was 9 points with 2 minutes.
Then they were down 4 or 5 in overtime too.
They were down. Yeah, they were down 5 points with 40 seconds left or 20 seconds. It was some crazy number.
Something crazy, yeah.
And I think that was regulation because
that was regulation.
Halliburton hit that too to tie it. But the point is, no team. Okay. Out of all the teams in playoff history that were I'm trying to remember the stat now, so I don't screw it up. With a minute 30 less that were up by more than 2 points, it's 1,400-0.
Oh my God!
This game.
Well, against them right now.
Right. So the reason I'm bringing this up, okay, is because Indy, both teams scored 125 points at the end of regulation. Okay. And Indy only shot 37 threes in the game. And they didn't start shooting them really until they had 25 at the end of regulation. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 30 or whatever it was. I think 35. I think it was 35 they had by the end of regulation. And then they shot 2 in overtime. Point is, they only started shooting those when they were down 20 and they needed to get back in the game. So they were able to score 125 points, Mark, without shooting threes. How'd they do that?
Here we go. I listen. Here we go.
How'd they do that?
Huh? Here we go.
So now we'll see if the Knicks blow that. It was nice to see.
And Chris, and then I loved in front of the New York fans, Halliburton's giving the choke.
Yeah, Reggie Miller.
Like Reggie Miller, right? Which I loved it.
Who was in the house, I think.
Who was in the house? Because those fans were so obnoxious when we played them.
Yep. And so, Indy takes the 1-0 lead. Now, getting to the Celtics, okay? Okay. We have a lot of sound We have a lot of sound. Joe, let me know when the call of Game 6 is ready.
That's ready.
All right, let's play that.
To the rabbit gets the gun.
Jalen Brunson, left side of the floor. Steps back on Jaylen Brown and hits a three. Timeout, Joe Mazzulla. 25 years, they've waited for a night just like this one, and they're going to celebrate every second.
Brunson, 6 seconds. Brunson on the drive. Gets inside the Towns, lost it. Kicks it out. Corner three. It's good. An exclamation point on a dominant first half, where this crowd is delirious. Mitchell Robinson back in the drive. Inside the heart. Back out. Brunson.
Mitchell Robinson.
Who did nothing yesterday, by the way.
And Josh Hart steals it from Derek White. Moves into the corner.
Nor did they try to foul him.
Shows a three.
No.
And the Knicks did not come here to praise the Celtics and their championship title reign. They came to bury it. And they have from the opening bell.
And bury him they did in game. That was, of course, the call for Game 6.
They did.
Okay, Mark. Last week we talked a lot about why this happened, and it comes out that Brown has
He had a partially torn meniscus.
So,
wait, who? Brown?
Jaylen Brown, they said, played with a partially torn meniscus.
Oh, good. Keep giving him the ball. Let him dribble up the lane there.
Porzingis, Chris, it seems
very
like
good, Joe. Excellent point.
Porzingis, it seems like, had every health ailment. They don't know what the hell's wrong with him.
He had some sort of
he's got
backwoods
kind of
disease. Who the hell knows what he's got going on over there? So, okay. Well, then what's your call for this then? You think it's an injury issue?
For who? Porzingis?
No.
Losing?
Like, why do we lose this series the way we did? It's Game 6 even. I mean, we know we talked about
Game
the whole
6,
series.
Chris, obviously, I think it was, Game 6, I think you could attest to the fact that Tatum's out, right? He's injured. Brown, I think, had to do more than he would probably have typically done if Tatum's on the floor. And I think he was at his limit. I think if he has a partially torn meniscus, Chris, he was at his limit. Porzingis really shouldn't even have been on the floor. I mean, he gave you a few minutes, but he shouldn't even have been on the floor. Holiday, for whatever they want to say about him, Chris, he wasn't 100% either. He hasn't been 100% for the last 6 weeks of the season, 7 weeks of the season. So he's not 100%. So, yeah, I'll say this. A fully healthy Celtic team beats that team in at most 5 games. So I don't want to use it as an excuse, but it was. I am. It was an excuse, Chris, because if they're healthy, they beat that team in 5 games. Now.
Well, okay. So
with that said, the Celtics their play style did play into the loss as well, because you mentioned this last week, Chris, about adjustments. If you know you got those injuries, well, maybe you should change the style of play rather than chucking threes up, 50, 60 threes a game well, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean, Chris. You should have changed your style of play if you knew that you had all this was going on with your roster. And Mazzulla just didn't do it.
I don't buy any of the crap about the injuries right now.
Okay.
Here's why.
Oh,
no.
Come on.
Here's why.
Come
then
on.
what the hell happened in Game 5?
Come
Explain
on.
Game 5 to me then.
What do you mean? Well, Game 5.
Game 5, they won by 25 points.
They did, and that was
with the same injuries, the same.
Yeah, but Game 5, Chris, you're at home. That was your last stand, and I think New York kind of took the foot off the gas a little bit. I think they might have underestimated the fight that the Celtics would have in that game. That you win one for Tatum.
That they didn't show in Game 6.
Win one for the Gipper, and it didn't show up in Game 6.
I mean, they didn't have any fight in Game 6. What's that? Injuries too?
They didn't.
No, I mean, listen, I'm not giving them an out, because coming into these playoffs, you and I talked on the phone, and I started to say, well, maybe but then I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? Coming into these playoffs, we started talking about, well, they really won't need Porzingis for this game, this series. We really don't need Porzingis until we hit Cleveland in the Eastern Finals, right? Well, they didn't have Porzingis. Fine, they didn't have Tatum in that game. But Mark, this series was over before Tatum got hurt.
Well, no, this series is over after Game 2, Chris. You blew 2 games at home.
So, I mean, no, I'm not giving them out. It's the style. It's the play style. Look, we've said before, well, how much does coaching really play into basketball?
Basketball, yeah.
You know,
With these
does it
guys,
really?
with this, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you know what? I'm altering my theory on that after watching this nonsense. So you say, well, can coaching help? Well, it could certainly hurt, and it hurt. Now, whether it's the coach, whether it's the organization, whether it's coming down from the top, however the play style needs to be, the bottom line is the play style cost them.
Okay.
It cost them this series, and it probably cost them getting back to the championship series. And I'll say one more thing. It probably cost them Tatum for the season too.
Oh, next season.
For next season.
Okay.
Because the nonsense of how they played and how they screwed around with how to play basketball, okay, contributed to all that other stuff, to the balls being dribbled off your legs, having to dive on. I told you last week, non-basketball plays that get you hurt, you know, stupidity like that. And this is what a reporter was talking to, evidently, to Scalabrini had to say after Game 6.
To the Celtics, said after the game, and I watched the clip because I thought it was interesting. He said that maybe, and he was down, like he wasn't angry in saying this, but he said maybe the Celtics deserve to lose because they kind of cheated the game in the way they approached the series. Now, that can mean a lot of different things. Here's how I interpreted it. I interpreted it to mean the Celtics had this feeling that we do what we do, and if we do it, nobody beats us, and we're not changing for anybody. You know, the old everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, the Mike Tyson line. They believe that. We're going to do our thing, we're going to shoot our threes, and if we do it, no one can beat us. And then as the series went on, and as the information kept coming back, you know, this might not be a good idea, you know, this might be the only way you can lose, you know, there's a lot of, they never really adjusted what they were doing. And maybe that, I think, is what Scalabrini meant.
Yeah. I mean, there it is. You know, I agree with Scal if that's what he said.
Yeah.
Because, again, we talked about it last week, you know. You can't. And you know, when I said to you just now, well, I don't know if it's coming from the top or if it's Mazzulla.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that press conference in 2023? Where he talked.
Yes, I do. Yeah, vaguely. Yes.
Where Mazzulla came on, and again, I'm paraphrasing all this. Where Mazzulla came out and he said basically, you know, talks about the margins, but he talks about 3-point shooting, and that determines, you know, if somebody shoots 15 more threes in a game, I mean, that's a huge number. I mean, you can't have that happen because then that's a much more difficult proposition to win. This is him.
Yeah. That's his philosophy, right? Yeah. And that also means, Chris, that's not going to change moving forward, right?
Well, they're not going to win then moving forward.
Now, let me ask you this. He's only got 1 year left on his contract, right? Next year?
Yeah.
And
he's a lame duck coach right now.
He's a lame duck. I was going to say that to you. He's technically a lame duck coach. Technically, Chris, when you go into a season as a lame duck coach, that's when problems happen. You lose the team. If they kind of start to tune you out because they're like, this guy's not going to be here next year. If they haven't signed him yet, then who says he's going to be the coach? That leads to problems, Chris. Just like for the Bruins this year, you left him as a lame duck coach, right? So you're going to make a decision pretty quickly this summer, Chris. Are we going to extend this guy? Or are we going to let him go in as a lame duck? And if he goes in as a lame duck, Chris, that's a problem. That's a problem for the locker room. When your coach is a lame duck coach. So I don't know if Stevens can allow that to happen. He's going to have to make a decision. And I don't think they're going to get rid of him. So you're going to have to sit him down and say, okay, let's talk money and try to, I'm assuming they'll figure out an extension.
I guess. And in the next segment, when we come back and talk more B's and more C's, we're going to talk about the media puppets a little bit more. My favorite topic. Okay. But to finish this out, yeah, listen, as long as this guy has this philosophy, they're not going to win. I mean, it's shown. It's been shown. It's been proven not to work now. Okay. I don't care what the numbers say. The friggin' nerds can't, they can't account for the intangibles. They can't account for situational basketball of what comes up during a game. And I don't want to hear these guys anymore keep talking about threes versus twos. It's not about threes versus twos. It's about playing in the situation you are in during the game and adjusting during that game to adjust to the freaking situation like Carlisle did last night when he was down and he knew he needed 3-pointers. And I didn't walk into that series saying, we're going to shoot the lights out from 3.
Carlisle's a good coach, Chris.
He's a good coach, and he kept that challenge in his pocket too for the end.
Yeah, he did.
Thibodeau got schooled last night.
He did.
So there's that. And then we want to go to break, but I want to talk about, we didn't get to this, but I want to talk about Brown and then what they do next. Okay. So let's talk about that. But this portion of B's and C's was presented by the Pats Nation. Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern. Tune in tomorrow. I'm so irritated. Just I'm so pissed off with the Celtics.
I know you are.
So make sure you.
But I am going to say this. You predicted, I don't know, might have been back in April. You said, Mark, they may get beat in the first round. You were close. They got beat in the second round.
Yeah. I'm so happy I was right. But anyway, tune into the Pats Nation tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. We're going to have it all. We're going to talk a lot of Patriots, OTAs, and so much more. We come back, going to continue with the Celtics. No flipping.
Sundays are for football. And here in New England, that means it's the Pats Nation with Corso and Catone. Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. All right, Mark, before we get to what do they do next, and we want to hear from Bobby Marks on that podcast about some of the Celtics options. But let's talk about Jaylen Brown for a minute.
Yep.
Is he a 1?
No. And I said this, Chris. I said this going back when they signed him to all that money. He's not a 1. And listen, okay, was he injured in this stretch? Okay, yeah, they say he was injured, a partially torn meniscus, whatever have you. Okay, fine.
But Mark, can I interrupt you? But injured or not, shouldn't he still be able to show leadership regardless? And
yes.
He doesn't. He hasn't ever.
Yes. Well,
sorry, I had to say it.
Well, Well, I think he did a little bit in that Golden State series. He tried to will them, Chris, in that series because Tatum was shut down totally in that. Remember in the finals a couple years back?
Yeah.
Brown tried, but Brown has made the comment, Chris, that I take a different role on this team because I could be he's basically said I can be a 1 anywhere else. I don't believe that to be true, Chris. After watching, and I'm going to agree with Joe, his leadership in these games 6, I don't believe that to be true. Do you?
No. Again,
and I guess we'll find out next year, right? Without Tatum, we'll find out.
He was the Finals MVP and all that.
Yeah.
I think by default.
Yeah.
Because Tatum didn't step up and take it.
No, but we're going to find out next year, Chris. Just what
for sure, we're going to find out.
He is, right? Is he a 1? And can he lead a team?
Unless they do something,
Yeah. You're dreaming. You're in dream.
Unless they trade with Dallas.
You're in dream. You're in a dream world. You're in a dream world. Yeah. I think they're going to go get Kevin Durant. I think he's washed up, but I think they're going to go get him.
Yeah, how's that help with the money?
Well, because I think if you unload Holiday, you unload Porzingis, and I think Phoenix wants to get out of that contract. Phoenix will pick up some of that contract for you. They won't pick it all up because they want to get out of the money. And so you could possibly do that, and you get rid of Hauser, and Horford retires. Yeah, you could probably swing that contract and then use younger guys around him and Brown. And then when Tatum comes back, you got one run with Durant, Brown, and Tatum.
That doesn't sound too bad. I don't mind that.
No.
I don't mind. I don't know that I mind that.
But we'll see. But anyways, Chris, so you don't think he's a 1 either?
No, I don't think he's a 1. I don't think he can carry a team. I mean, okay, you give him a whole, full, healthy knee. But, that knee issue, that's been ongoing. That was like an ongoing thing, and he's played great. He's played really well with it, too. So, I just, again, because now he's going to try to do the other things like Tatum does, the assists and the But Mark, I won't be able to answer that until I see them operate like basketball instead of analytics nerds. They should just let the nerds with their goofy friggin' haircuts get on the goddamn court and shoot 3-pointers all night. Right?
I agree. Listen,
and I'll put Stevens on that list too.
Yeah. I'm going to come up with one caveat to how I answered that though, Chris. Is he a 1? I think you are right in saying we have to wait and see, Chris, next year. Next year, you and I can truly answer that question because it's going to be his team because Tatum's not going to be playing. And let's see if he becomes that one, maybe like an MVP caliber player and say, okay, I'm going to carry this team and this franchise and because I'm an MVP caliber player and Tatum's on the bench and now I'm going to show you. So let's see.
And I'm not going to give him an out because Tatum's gone. I'm not going to give him an out. You
No,
know why I'm not?
no,
I'll tell you
no.
why. Because as it sits right now, the Celtics, even without Tatum, are still a better team than Indiana. And I think they're garbage. I think those teams are garbage. Oklahoma's going to wipe their ass for them in the final. It'll be a sweep.
Yeah.
End of story. When Indiana gets in there, it will be a sweep because the Knicks are over, by the way. They're done.
Yeah. Last night I didn't cook them.
Yeah, the slippers going on or whatever we call that with the, Cinderella. I don't know. Bottom line is they're done. And Oklahoma's going to slap both of those teams around, either one of those teams around. So the Celtics are just as good even now. So I'm not going to give any excuses to this team next year. They should be in the playoffs. Maybe not the number 1 seed, but they should be in the playoffs.
They should be in the playoffs.
So now what happens? What's going to be the plan now? We heard from Bobby Marks on his podcast. Joe, let's hear that.
A little bit more drastic. Okay. We call this the gap year reset option. What does the gap year reset option mean? It's basically you're going to wait for Tatum to get back. You're going to build the roster with Tatum and Derek White. You are going to look at trade suitors for Jaylen Brown, and you are going to do a full reset where you're basically punting away next season. And you are probably competing for a back-end lottery play-in spot. But you're basically cashing in Jaylen Brown. That's your reset option, where it's basically it's White, Tatum, who's injured, looking at trade suitors for Brown, Holiday, Porzingis, and you're basically using your first round draft pick in a loaded draft, and hopefully you catch lightning in a bottle like Dallas just did with Cooper Flag.
What do you think?
Interesting, Chris, about throwing Jaylen Brown out there. That I haven't heard. So what do you think? Is that would you entertain that?
Well, you got to get a lot. I mean, you got to get. I've heard people talking about, trade them to. I have scenarios. Okay. So let me talk a couple. And I've seen these at other places. I didn't do this myself. So let me just. But proposal 1, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, to the Rockets for Van Fleet, Smith, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, and the 10th overall pick. There's no, I don't know will you do that?
No.
You can't just get a 10th overall. Van Fleet's, that's that's useless.
No.
Now you're cutting a lot of salary. I get that, but you're cutting just there. You're cutting what? 50,
oh, you're
million?
cutting a ton of salary, yeah.
80 some odd million, but
yeah,
you gotta get a 10th pick for Jaylen Brown?
No,
that's a dead deal. I'm not doing that.
That's a dead deal.
Nope, not doing that. So do you trade Brown? Yeah, I mean, I think.
Let me ask you something,
but you got to get a lot in return.
Let me ask you something.
I want to trade
Brown. Do you trade Brown in a package and get Giannis?
Like this, you mean? So the Celtics would get Giannis, okay? The Bucks would get Jaylen Brown. This is a 3-team deal with Brooklyn, okay? Giannis we get. Jaylen Brown goes to the Bucks. Nick Claxton goes to the Bucks from Brooklyn, and the Bucks also get a 2031 first-round pick from the Celtics, okay? And then Porzingis goes to the Nets with a 27 first-round pick from the Celtics. So we're giving up 2 first-round picks, basically, and Jaylen Brown and Porzingis to get Giannis. What are your thoughts about that?
And you keep Holiday, you keep White. Tatum comes back. Yeah, I would make that deal. Well, you wouldn't. I know you're not a Giannis fan.
Well, because he's a locker room. He's a team destroyer. Okay. This guy.
All right.
Picture Tatum. Picture Tatum right now. Okay. where this clown Giannis has the ball in his hands constantly. And when he gets it in his hands, he never gives it up.
All right. So maybe that's not
So picture Giannis with Tatum right now. Tatum having to deal with that crap with him.
Yeah.
Plus, he's a jerk.
I get it.
I know. If he changed his mindset, yeah. I mean, obviously he was number 3 in voting for MVP this year.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a better player than Jaylen Brown.
Would you trade? Well, I forget. They wouldn't take Jaylen Brown. Forget it.
Oh.
I was going to kid around and say, would you take Jokic?
Oh, they'll never touch you. We'd have to give up Tatum and Brown.
You'd never.
Would you trade Tatum for Jokic? Because that's what other people. I heard something like that this week where they said, "Okay, so would you trade Tatum to Dallas
for
that pick, for Flag, and then something else?" And
oh boy,
I can't. I can't give up.
I would trade Jaylen Brown.
Yeah,
you could get the number 1 pick. You're not getting Flag out of Dallas. You're not getting him.
No,
so
he's not.
That's a dead issue. That's a dead deal. Let me add. So.
I got a couple others too.
Go ahead. Because then I want to pose something to you. But go ahead.
All right, Derek White. Because then after this we want to talk about what we think they should do, and then we want to talk about the media. I got to get to that. Golden State's really, really interested in this Derek White. So
what are you going to get, Curry?
Looking about Derek White, put him next to Curry, right? For Jonathan Kuminga, that'd be a sign and trade deal.
That'd be a sign and trade deal.
I don't know if I'm going to say the name.
Now, Kuminga can play center if you plan on dumping Porzingis because you're going to need somebody under the basket because I think Horford's going to retire.
Yeah, I do too. And then you get Brandon Podziemski, I believe that's how you say his name. And then a 27.
He's a good shooter, Chris.
Yeah. And a 27 first-round pick, but it's a top 6 protected, which I don't think you're going to worry about because.
So who are we sending there?
Derek White.
Yeah, I would do that deal.
How much was Kuminga really, And well, what's that first-round pick going to be for Golden State, though, So, I mean, it is interesting. That's an interesting one. And then the last one is Porzingis to the Lakers for a couple of Kleber and a couple other things, but a 2020-30 first-round pick and a 2032 pick swaps, 2 pick swaps, first-round picks. I mean, I'll trade I'll do that deal.
Listen, I'll do that deal because I just want Porzingis out of here. I agree with you, Chris. Yeah.
He hasn't given you anything in 2 years. No. They didn't win that championship because of Porzingis.
No.
I mean,
So let me
when you need him, he's not there.
So let me ask you this. Now, Marks is talking about a reset.
Yeah.
We're kind of talking about a mini reset. We talked about Holiday and Porzingis dumping salary and Horford and Hauser. Okay, fine. Right? So we're all talking about this.
Yes.
So this particular team has won this team, 2 max guys, Brown and Tatum. You surrounded them with Holiday. You surrounded them with White. You had Horford. You make the deal for Porzingis. Granted, Porzingis has only been here the last 2 years. However, during this run, you only got 1 championship, Chris. You lose to Golden State in the finals. What was that? Was that 23
years ago?
22? Okay. You lose to them in 22.
Yeah.
Then you lose to Miami in the final, Eastern Conference final. You lose this year. You won a championship.
Well, you won and then you lose this year.
Easy road to a championship.
Well, that's the narrative now. What you said would happen. Yeah, it is.
No. But I'm going to give you the championship. You win it. But then, even when these guys were younger, Tatum and Brown, you and I argued, could they steal a championship? But they couldn't get there.
No.
Right? So, is this run with this group, Tatum, Brown, and a couple of different versions of players around these 2 guys, up until this point, has it been a disappointment and a failure? They've only got 1 championship, Chris. These guys are in their prime. They've only got 1.
It becomes a disappointment.
Now Tatum's going to come off of an injury.
It's hard to say that because obviously you can't take out this season, what just happened. You can't take that away. But coming into this season, I would say no. I mean, they flirted with championship every year. They were right there.
But they haven't won. They didn't win it.
I get it. But I think now that you dump this on top of it, what happened here, Yeah, it's a disappointment right now because now the narrative is what you said it would be, which is if Denver got in last year,
probably don't pick.
We weren't winning that championship. It was going to be another Golden State situation, and now where are we now?
Yeah. All right.
So then that begs the question: okay, where do you go? You go again. Where do you go? Do you I mean, to me, you got to keep White on this team. That's really all.
You got to keep White on the team, and
Brown,
I think
Tatum, White.
I think that we're going to keep White on the team, and other than that, Chris, there's going to be some sort of a mini reset. There has to be.
But I don't
because this owner, Chris, is not going to stay at that apron level. They call it the aprons. He's not going to stay at that level, because he'll pay a ton of money in tax thing. He's not going to do it. Not as a new owner. He can't afford to, Chris.
So let's talk about Mazzulla really quick as it relates.
And the media.
To
you want to get to the media.
Yeah, because we already said it. They didn't extend him. He's a lame duck coach. Okay, he just clearly isn't adjusting his playing style, and he better, because if he doesn't, he shouldn't be here. They should get rid of him. Listen, I'm fine with getting rid of this guy. I'm done. I'm fine with it. Or let him go next season and see what kind of adjustments because you're not gonna have the 3-point shooters that you're just not. Howard is not gonna be there. Holiday, you're gonna miss. Porzingis even with 3-pointers, he's gonna be gone.
Chris, I just think it's a mistake to let him come back as a lame duck coach. If you're not gonna extend him, I think I'd get rid of him now. Let him part ways.
Yeah, and I got a real problem with the assistant coaches on this team, like Cassell, not stepping up and saying, "Hey, dude, what are we doing right now?"
Well, supposedly you brought Cassell in to help him on the bench strategize and make decisions. Cassell
they miss Van Gundy.
Yeah,
they miss Van Gundy.
They don't pull him. Cassell doesn't pull him aside and say, "Joe, listen, the threes aren't going. We got to do something different. Come on, this is slipping away from us. Let's go. Let's change this." Come on.
If they're going to keep him, they need a veteran. They need a veteran former head coach to be behind them, like they had with Van Gundy, because they miss him. Anyway, well, we're talking about Mazzulla, right? So Brad Stevens goes to his postseason presser, right?
Yep.
Now you got the GM or whatever he's called sitting there. Okay. This is what I'm talking about with the friggin' media puppets. It goes for the Celtics. It goes for the Patriots. Okay.
He's the president of basketball operations, right?
Right. Not one question about Mazzulla's future.
Yeah.
Not a general stupid-ass question about how difficult of coaching it is when some stupidity, okay? But nobody actually said, "Hey, Brad, okay, you say that, you think Joe did a good job. Is he coming back? Why didn't you extend him? We saw Nick Sirianni win a championship. He got extended. Why isn't Mazzulla getting it? Why didn't he get extended last year, Brad? Not even.
Yeah.
How do you not ask that question?
Yeah. Listen, Chris. No, you're right. Listen, because then they don't want to ask. They don't want to press the situation, Chris. Because God forbid you lose access. It's all about access with these guys now. If you press the wrong button on Stevens and you lose access,
And then Stevens says Porzingis is going to play for Lafayette this summer. We support that. Blah blah blah. Crickets, Mark. What the hell what would your question be right then and there to him?
I know. No, you're gonna follow up with how the hell you to play for Lafayette? The guy looked like he was the Walking Dead. He was it was like the Walking Dead. You're gonna go let him play in the summer for his country?
Yeah, unless you're saying, "Hey, we're going to trade him, so we want him to have a showcase."
Which I think that is probably the case.
But ask the question.
But ask the goddamn question. Yeah.
And the biggest one of all, the 3 points, the 3-point shot. What the hell was the philosophy, Brad, this season when you're plus 15%? More 3-point shots this season.
Yeah.
What happened? Do you feel that was your downfall? Are you faulting Joe for that? Who's responsible for nothing?
Yeah, nothing. It basically was negligence, Chris. It was blatant negligence on these reporters, these local guys, for not asking those questions, Chris.
And I'll give Felger all the credit because Felger's the only guy that's out there saying right now, Mike Felger is saying, "Hey, why aren't you asking these questions?" Because guess what? His partner, he was off BST on that Boston sports station. He was off that night. It was Giles, it was Holly, and it was Washburn who's sitting in that room. Washburn was sitting in that press conference with Stevens.
Was Holly there though?
Holly, Giles, no, not at the press conference, on the show that night.
Okay.
Felger was out. BST with Felger and Holly, right?
Oh,
Felger was
okay.
out. It was Giles.
Okay.
It was Holly, and it was Washburn who came in as the analyst guy. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
Neither one of those two guys said to Washburn, "Why didn't you ask him that question?"
Yeah, Holly. Felger would have asked him.
Gary Washburn of the Globe. What?
Yeah.
You know what? You're a joke. The media in New England, you're a freaking joke. You're a joke when it comes to the Patriots. You're a joke when it comes to the Celtics. You should have all your cards revoked. Give Mark and I the press passes. Let us in that room, and we'll get the freaking questions answered that the people want to know. You know why? Because we're fanalists. We're for the people.
Chris, you know what's
not
funny,
for
though?
ourselves.
Chris, you know what's funny though? They ask the questions of the Bruins.
Of course, because that's not their, because that's EEI. That's a different station that deals with the Bruins and the Red Sox.
They asked the question of the Bruins.
Yeah, the Red Sox and Bruins. Yeah, no, because that's not affiliated with what they're doing over there in those stations that they work for.
Okay.
It's a bunch of BS.
Okay.
So you're a joke. You're a joke. So you know what? Throughout the rest of the summer, we're going to continue to talk about Bruins, Celtics, and Joe. I think we'll continue this post-mortem next week because there's a lot more to talk about.
And Chris, we also have to follow we're going to continue to follow these NBA playoffs because we're going to see if you are correct, Chris, with this OKC prediction, and we're going to see what happens to these foolish New York Knicks because we think they're going to fall flat on their face and they're not going to get out of this series.
So, B's and C's was presented by Corso Law Group, CorsoLawGroup.com. When we come back, hey, let's get geared up, Mark. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Toad's comments is next.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help.
Time for Catone's comment!
Okay, so I know we're not necessarily getting into it today, but I do want to talk about the Patriot OTAs, okay? Watching, the rookie mini camp and then watching this first session of OTAs, and I get they're in shorts and t-shirts, and I get all that, right? But this first session of OTAs has been different than previous years, okay? Listen, these guys, it's clear that they've brought in more athletic guys, okay? That's clear, okay? These guys are practicing. They're pushing them. They're pushing hard, right? Now, Mayo, last year the big thing was, they ran the hills. They ran the hills in July and August, and that's why they were ready for week 1 against the Bengals. Well, listen, that's a bunch of BS. Listen, they may have practiced at times hard with Mayo, but there was a lot of standing around, a lot of guys not knowing whether they did something right, did something wrong. The coaching, stunk. The Patriots were a clown show, and they've been like this for a while. And I'm going to get into this for you, Mr. Corso, because they were like that the last 2 or 3 years with your buddy, Bill, because he loves to talk about Bill. Oh, Bill, he loves Bill. Well, they were a clown show with him, too, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, all right? But you now have professional coaches at every position group with these guys. Now, you got better. You got better at coaching than you had with Mayo. You got a good coach. I believe you have a good coach, and that's evident that this is a professional organization again with the way things are being done. Now, is he the best coach in the league? Absolutely not. But he's better. He's better than what you've had. Okay, because I would argue the last couple of years Belichick lost it. I don't know what the hell was going on with him. He had a joke of his coaching staff around him was a joke, from Patricia to Judge to the lack of an offensive line coach. That's changed. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. Compared to last year, you can already tell the organization, the game planning, The X's and O's already look much sharper, and pulling guys aside. McDaniels is going out with the wide receivers and showing them not even the wide receiver coach. And McDaniels is kind of telling them what he expects from them while they're at the line of scrimmage. Okay, and that was not happening the last 3 years. Okay, even with Billy O'Brien, it was almost like Belichick had him on a leash. And Billy O really wasn't able to do what I think Billy O wanted to do, because I think Belichick really didn't want him. That was Kraft who made that call, and Billy O was kind of on a leash, okay? So the OTAs have been different, okay? The coaches Belichick had out there, like I just said, Judge and Patricia, and the clown shows of offensive line coaches, they weren't professional. These poor guys were not being coached by professional coaches. It was an unprofessional staff. Patricia was a defensive guy. You wanted him to coach offense. That wasn't his forte. He couldn't coach offense. This team, it looks like, this team now has a plan. They know what they want to run. They're prepared. Now, does that mean they're going to win 12 games this year? No, it's still going to come down to talent. And I think that the acquisition of talent is still a work in progress. So I think they're going to be a better prepared team. They're going to be a better team. Just looking at the OTAs. But again, I think they still need more talent, but they're going to get there. We won't look. This team, I'm going to tell you something right now. Was I thrilled were Chris and I thrilled with McDaniels? We went back and forth on whether or not we thought McDaniels was the right coach to come in here. And should we get some, if you're going to hire, Vrabel, maybe you bring in some young offensive-minded OC. But looking at the OTAs, I'm going to tell you what, you're not going to look stupid on a Sunday with Josh as your OC, because he ain't going to take the crap that Polk and Baker and guys not knowing where to line up and receivers running the wrong route or taking a bad angle on a route. Those guys aren't going to see the field. They're going to be on the bench. They're never going to see the field. Never going to see the field. He's going to put the best guys in the field that know what they're doing, that are going to make him look good. He's not going to embarrass you on a Sunday. Those guys will be coached correctly. Now, whether or not his scheme and his system works, we'll see. We'll see. But I listen, this is a better looking Patriot OTA than we've seen the last several years. And that goes back to your buddy, the old man Bill, too, who supposedly he's getting engaged. That's the new rumor. He's getting engaged to that tramp. I don't know what the hell he's doing with her. Anyways, all right. I said it. I called it that. I said it. I said it, Joe.
I don't care what the hell you call it. The trash, call it a trash, but I don't care. You just have never liked Belichick.
I like him, but you were not willing to admit.
You like everybody else. You used them up, you spit them out, and you said, "Screw you now. The hell with all your years." That's right. That's right. That's what you did.
That's not true. You wouldn't admit the last couple of years he lost it. You wouldn't admit it.
No,
as Felder used to say, he lost his fastball.
Listen, I disagree.
Oh, now he's stuttering, Chris. Joe, he's stuttering now.
I disagree. I disagree with where he lost his fastball. I've always said to you, his drafts suck. His coaching decisions were terrible. Okay, I do put some of that on the damn owner about spend. Also, about who he wanted to spend money on. So all that. But I will never, ever, ever on earth, you'll never hear me say that he ever lost his fastball as it relates to football. Period. I'll never say it because I know I'm right. This dude, what he forgot about football, no coach in this league has yet to learn. Period. So
we'll see in North Carolina.
Yes, we will. Oh, we will see. That team will be more prepared and more understanding of situational football than any team in the entire country. And that includes Bama, LSU, and any of the rest of them.
Yeah, but Chris,
they don't have the horses, but
Chris, I think that situational football the last couple of years didn't show up here anymore. I don't think we were the most prepared team with situational football the last couple of years, Chris. I do think he lost his fastball.
in the sense that he didn't surround himself with people that could account for the fact that age-wise and so on, he couldn't put his hand in everything like he always has. And in that sense, what I'm saying, he lost his fastball there. He did. But anyway, that's not the bigger point that you make.
But the point is, Chris, I do think based on these OTAs compared to last year, this team's going to be a much better football team, Chris. Much more prepared, much more organized. They're professionally coached.
A hell of a lot. That's not a hell of a lot to say since you were starting at negative friggin' 50 and now you're back up to 0 to plus 10. I mean, that's basically what you got here. That coaching staff was a joke, for the last few years. So yeah, I mean, they're going to be ready to go. Yeah. They'll be tough. They'll be ready to go. Absolutely. And we're going to talk more about this tomorrow. I'm glad you brought this up. We're going to talk about May's 4 interceptions on the first day. And does it even matter, shorts and T-shirts? Does it really even make a difference, Mark?
Yeah. No.
But that's good stuff. No, hey, listen, put a pin in it. And let's pick this up tomorrow on the Pats Nation, which Catone's Comments is presented by 8 a.m. Sundays. Make sure you tune in. Like I said, we'll have OTA talk and have a little more about this coaching situation, how McDaniels and company are going to use these guys. What are we seeing from them, and so much more. When we come back, we're going to get back to baseball a little bit. We're going to talk Yankees versus Red Sox. No flipping.
Sundays are for football. And here in New England, that means it's the Pats Nation with Corso and Catone. Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I just had a drink of water. It was like, Joe, I can't get used to the. What? You shortened up the commercials.
Drinking water.
Trying to get my timing down anymore. So, all right, guys, let's talk a little baseball. Let's do it in Yankees versus Red Sox. Joe. I love that. All right, Mark, let's get to it. We're over a little. So talk about the Yankees a little bit. We have some drama with the Red Sox, of course.
So the Yankees, Chris, are a mash unit, right? We keep talking about it. It's just one injury after another. Not third baseman gets hurt, breaks his ankle. He's out for the year. Stanton, there's no sign of him even going for an assignment to get himself ready, a rehab assignment. The pitching staff is being, put together with spit and paper and glue.
Silly putty, whatever you want to call it.
But yet, they're 10 games over 500 as of this taping. They
11.
win with a walk 11. Yes, they won today. Yes, 11 games over 500. They went on a walk-off last night. Dominguez hits an upper deck. Crushed it. And, why is he still in left field, Chris? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the kid's got enough. Listen, the kid's got an all-star bat. Get the kid comfortable. He's thinking too much. Put him in center field. He's a center fielder. Why?
You'll see him hit better.
That's what I'm getting at, Chris. You'll get him to hit better. You brought in Bellinger, but if you're bringing Bellinger in to make Dominguez play left field, then you shouldn't have brought Bellinger in.
Right.
Because you can't. You learned last year at the end of the season that this kid's not a left fielder, so I don't know what Boone's doing with that situation. I really don't. I don't.
I think Bellinger would be fine.
I think Bellinger would be fine playing over there, too.
He hit a grand salami the other day, Bellinger.
Yeah. So, listen.
Grand slam.
Aaron Judge, Chris, is having you can't even describe what a great season he's having. It's a historic.
Put Soto in his place.
Put Soto in his place. That's right. Damn sure. Yeah. Soto's hitting like 250, right?
Yep.
So he's having
because he got protected by Judge.
Of course he did.
It was a Manny Ortiz situation. It was Manny Ramirez.
He's having a historic season. Let's see how that continues to play out. Chris, the Yankees, based on the makeup of this American League East, if the Yankees could ever get healthy, Chris, don't run away with this damn division.
Well, I mean, the division, they're up 5 games over Toronto, and in the league, the AL, I mean, they're only down 2.5 to Detroit.
Yeah,
and like you say, all these damn injuries,
and they got all these damn injuries, Chris.
And a manager who can't get out of his own way.
So, are you finally going to give credit to Boone? Oh, okay. So you just said he can't get out of his own way. I thought you want to give Boone credit for this.
Do you want to give him credit?
Well, you might have to give him a little bit of credit, Chris, for holding this team together right now. You might have to, Chris. I know we always
for playing LeMahieu at third, for playing LeMahieu at second base. I mean, so you're gonna break another spot to fix another spot.
I'm trying to give the guy a little love. He's got him 11 games over 500 right now with all the injuries. But
fine.
All right.
That's fine.
Go to your favorite team, the Red Sox.
Yeah, my favorite team. Look at what that say up there behind me. You talk about managers. Okay, since you brought up managers, let's talk about Alex Cora. My God. First of all, this team is one game under 500, which we thought they would be a lot better than this. And Mark, they should be, this being the Red Sox, be much better than they are. Do you agree with that?
No, I do.
Than their record, I mean.
Yeah, and they've had some injuries with their pitching staff too, Chris. However, they're a hell of a lot more They're a hell of a lot healthier than the Yankees.
This is I'm putting this squarely on Cora right now. Look, I mean, I'm going to give it to the players too. Obviously, they're not stepping up where they need to, but the moves are not. What they're screwing around with this Roman Anthony and what they're going to do with him, and what are they going to do at first base, and then screwing around with the whole Devers thing, and then you got guys not paying attention to signs. Rafaela bunts on a steal. The other night, Cora comes to the top of the steps and is yelling out there at the kid because, I mean, this team's a friggin' mess. They play soft. They play stupid. Okay? And there's very little effort. And I'll be honest. The other day, Cora caught a lot of crap because he went to his daughter's graduation at Boston College, evidently, and he missed the game that night when the graduation was at 10 in the morning and so on and so forth. And so he got caught a lot of crap for that. So I want to ask you, do you give him crap for that? Or is it just because they're such a mess, dysfunctional mess, that something like that gets magnified? Because I have no problem with him.
I think because they're a dysfunctional mess, it gets magnified. And let me say something, Chris, that none of these other reporters or media outlets have reported. But
look, there's a surprise.
We're the first group to say it. So based on what I do for a living and based on what I, in my experience. So his daughter is a first generation college graduate, Chris. So that's a big thing with the Hispanic families and different type of family, any
ethnic families that never had that happen, or anybody. Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. Any family, Chris. Yeah. If you're a first generation college graduate, that's a big damn thing, Chris. I mean, fortunately, our children are not first-generation college graduates, but if they were, Chris, that's a big thing. So he took the day. He spent it with his daughter. He spent it with his family. That's a historic occasion for his family. I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't have one issue with him spending the day with his family, his daughter. She's a first-generation college graduate. She graduated from Boston College. She's going to graduate school at the University of Miami. Hey, good for her. Congratulations. And good for him. He chose to spend it with his family. Because this place is a dysfunctional mess, you're right, Chris. They made it a bigger deal than it is. But shame on the media and shame on these people. Give the man the time with his family.
Well, I mean, at least say what it is. Don't the act of spending the time with the daughter. Now, if the daughter went to some graduation party, he was sitting home because he's disgusted and doesn't want to go back to the stadium. He needs a day off.
That's different. That's different. And there's no evidence of that, Chris. There's no evidence of that.
And I'm being facetious, of course. But no, it's not the act of doing that. It's the fact that it's magnified because of what a mess it is. I mean, look, when you do things like this, when you make a predetermined decision to say, after 5 1/3 inning, after 85 pitches with 5 Ks, you go pull Crochet, who's pissed off about coming off the mound at that point, and then you end up losing the game because they get shelled after that because you decided that you only wanted them pitching 85 games. Guess what? You forgot to tell him. Yeah. You forgot to tell the player that.
Yeah.
And that's why they're a mess.
Yeah, they're a mess. Yeah, they're a mess. They're a mess.
That's it. That's why they're a mess, and that's why we have to go now. So, Corso and Catone, we'll have more next week. Don't worry. But Corso and Catone was presented by the Pats Nation Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern. Tomorrow we'll break down OTAs, as I said. Hey, we're going to talk tight ends and running backs tomorrow, so make sure you're tuning in. And come back next weekend, noon Eastern. We're going to talk Celtics future, Yankees Sox, more of that. Catone's comments, and so much more. Anything you bring to the table, we will be ready. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Now find Corso and Catone on AM 790, The Score, iHeartRadio, iTunes, wherever you podcast. Or subscribe to the YouTube channel and catch the chaos every Saturday at noon.